This is a comic, and if you are allergic to seeing comic books being torn into pieces, you best not watch this video. This one is written by best-selling, critically acclaimed, best-selling, Eisner-nominated, best-selling writer Michael Brian Benson. You'd think that his name alone would sell the comic rather than having to slap 2 event titles on the cover and insisting ad nauseum that this will be the most important comic for the Marvel Universe going forward, and that this issue will define the whole direction of the entire line for the next few years. Basically, Michael Brian Benson, he was given the keys to the Marvel Universe by editor Tom Brevoort. But Benson, he hates comics, and he hates comic book readers, so instead of getting a big love letter to the medium, or even a good comic book story, we get this pile of shit. We open up with Emma Frosty's, and Benson, as he often does, is trying to enforce his own ideas, his own takes on the characters and other books that he has no right interfering with. So here he makes Emma Frosty's, apparently she is unhappy in her relationship with Cyclist because Benson hates their relationship. He took glee in undoing it years later and laughed at the people who were upset. And Emma Frosty's is also apparently having recurring dreams. She's having nightmares, night terrors, all about Benson's Jewish princess Buffy Pride. Benson, he loves throwing his cock all over the Marvel books, and Tom Brevoort loves letting him do so. We already had it when, in an early Avengers story, Benson decided to just depower almost every mutant on Earth. A huge shake-up to the Excellent Men books. Why is such an enormous change being forced onto those books by the Avengers writer? Maybe it is because Benson wanted to try and screw up the franchise that was the major competition at Marvel for his Avengers books. I didn't know, I am just some dude. But Benson, he never really thought it through. He never had any explanation for it. So the Excellent Men books, they got stuck writing stories around this selfish, egomaniacal display of power. And that's pretty much the same sort of thing we have here. Something else you'll notice is a lot of these pages are just art. There's very little dialogue. And this is one of Benson's big tricks. He worked out the secret on how to write comics when you are a lazy hack. You just have loads of panels of characters walking places with no dialogue, have panels of characters walking into buildings with no dialogue, have panels of characters looking at things, have as little dialogue as possible. This is a page of script, and there's 10 words on the whole page. And to break that down even more, 2 of those words are a character's name, and 2 of the other words are repeated. That's another one of his tricks, repeating. We'll get onto that in a bit. And another one of his tricks is to have loads and loads of double splash pages, as he has to write even less dialogue for them. There is an Avengers comic that the first 8 pages are just double splash pages of Earth from space. The same static image of the planet as Summit slowly heads towards it, with no dialogue whatsoever. Basically, he makes most of the books rely on the art rather than the writing. And he has every person in this comic out of character. The idea here is, Benson's big idea, he's been given complete creative control to do whatever he pleases. The best idea that he could come up with is to have some major villains team up, which is just one of the many storylines that Benson is flat out rehashing from other stories. This whole crossover, Dark Regime, is just a fusion of acts of vegans and Kurt Busey's Thunderballs. But I'll talk about how Benson is a rip-off merchant in another video. Benson, he doesn't like comics. He never liked comics. He has at most read Hank Miller's Daredevil and a few Christopher Clairvoyant Excellent Men's, but he doesn't like comics, and you can tell that from the selection of villains here. We have got Mr. Doom, obvious big name villain, easy choice. Then we have got Seaman, who's not really a villain beyond the Silver Age. We have got Emma Frosties, who, well, she hasn't even been bad for over a decade by this point, but Benson, he notably hated the idea of making her into a goodie bird, so he would have loved this chance to just piss all over that here. And then we have got Udman, a character that Benson adopted and tried to convince people that he had created. He wrote him horrifically, ignored his other appearances before, and really tried to push and force him into being a major Avengers villain, despite it just being a bad fit. He's certainly not like a major evil baddie who is worthy of this team up. Then we have got Tom Hiddleston, Loki, and I reckon he is only here because at that point Thor's comic was selling really well. It was getting good reviews, people liked it, and Benson, he wanted to try and jump in on that boom and milk it. And finally, the mastermind of this all is Norman Osborn, the Green Gobbler. Now, Benson, he adopted Norman Osborn quite early on, and it really shows how little Benson likes these comics, how surface level he is. He took this Spider-Man villain and rewrote him entirely into just being Lenny Luthor's from the Superman films. And on this page, you'll notice there's a lot of writing here, and this is another trick Benson uses. He would write a huge monologue, a really long speech, a painful reading experience, and then that would be like his main work for the next couple of months. This entire speech that Norman Osborn is given, he has reused this, he has shown it again in at least 3 other comics. It was first shown in the final issue of Secret Invasion, then there's this, there's the Siege preview, there's an issue of Dark Avengers, 14 I think. There is a one-shot all about this secret group. He reuses it all verbatim, word for word. There's very seldom new context or new content. It's just a repeat. Also, you might say that the art here is good, and it does have some okay bits, but it's not as good as people will say it is. Everyone is off model. Everyone. Hoodman, he suddenly has got a goatee, and he's never had a goatee before or in another comic. Seaman is balding, and that is pretty funny. And look at Norman Osborn on this cover. This is not him in any way. The most recognisable thing about Norman Osborn is, well, his silly hair, and this artist has just given him completely different and normal hair. Then we have got, this is the sort of exciting mystery that Benson weaves. There is a mystery shadowed man, And by the 7th time you see this scene and it's finally revealed that it is again just the Century, it's almost a joke how much of a cop-out it is. Benson's lack of creativity is all over this. It really annoys us that he has so much freedom to do what he wants, and this is what he comes up with. These are the big villains he can think of. What about Red Skull Man? What about Mr. Magnet or Sinestro? As I said, he doesn't like comics. He really doesn't. He just wanted to write TV, but couldn't because he is shit. So we got stuck with him, and his complete lack of creativity or imagination or passion or even knowledge of what he is writing. He writes everyone out of character. Mr. Doom is completely undermined. Norman Osborn, well, it's just a shit Benson version of Lenny Luthor's. Hoodman is just Benson's street level character that he is pushing hard to try and make people identify as being a Benson character. Emma Frosty's is purposefully written to just try and counter whatever ideas best-selling writer Michael Brian Benson doesn't like. Tom Hiddleston, Loki, he does now at all because Benson clearly doesn't know what the character's deal is yet. Seaman is written as like a sleazy, rapey fish man, which is probably the closest Benson gets to actually nailing any of these characters. And here is another page with no dialogue whatsoever. It's just characters silently reacting, looking at each other. And then we've got an advert, double page advert. More effort went into this advert than Benson's script. This entire first part is a waste of time. We already saw most of this scene play out in another comic, and we will see it again and again. And here is original material. This is like the new story elements. Benson, he was in the process of trying to claim the Thunderballs. After they had become popular, the Warren Fallis and Mike Diddy Dardo Jerk run, it became really popular. And now Benson, he has decided he wanted to adopt those characters. And of course, Tom Beevor, he just let Benson do whatever he wanted. So here we have got a scene with Swordman. He's drawn off model and he's written like a whiny little girl. And Benson clearly thinks that this character is rubbish because immediately Norman Osborn impales him on his own sword. Again, this is Benson throwing his flabby little cock around. Here he is just killing off unceremoniously a character from another book just because he can. The character's death here is insulting. Swordman, he doesn't even get to put up a fight. He immediately just gets impaled on his own sword and thrown down a mountain. So this layered character, Swordman, he's killed off, and it's all about how Norman Osborn is crazy. How Norman Osborn is dead crazy. And there's a splash page with 2 words on it. Classic Benson. Meanwhile, Emma Frosty's is still having nightmares about Buffy Pride, and she blames herself for Benson's dream girl being killed off by Joshua Whedon's son. And this is probably meant to be the motivation for Benson trying to make her back into a baddie. This is a waste of time, a waste of money, and a waste of paper. This is what happens when an editor who does fuck all lets a lazy arsehole take over and direct the entire company. This is just him slapping his flabby little circumcised cock around and trying to break things to fit with his base level ideas of the characters. Benson, he doesn't like comics. I'm destroying this. Why It's Benson. Why is he writing and directing Marvel's entire line? This is just incompetent indulgence. So I'm going to rate this one my super low rating of 7 thumbs up.